Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It is Positively Awesome Wrestling, and we are here. It is yours truly, the Drip King Jimmy Bebe, and I am joined by the returning Tidey. He missed us last week, but he is back this week. I know a lot of y'all be happy about that one. Tidey, how have you been, buddy?
Been good, man. Just working, and Dead Island 2 was really fun. I've been digging that. I need sleep still. But I'm good, man. I just want to talk about wrestling, something positive. Don't negative stuff.
That's what we're here for, and hopefully you can get some of that sleep tonight, bud. Albert is here joining us again. If you watched last week, you know he's the newest member here. Albert, he is back this week to join us to make this a fancy little menage a trois. Albert, how have you been this past week, sir?
I'm doing all right, man. Not too bad. Can't complain. I'm with you, Tidey, on the needing some sleep because I'm pretty exhausted myself. But other than that, same thing. I'm ready to just talk about some wrestling, have a little fun.
And I think we got quite a bit that we can pick from. Our main topic for tonight's episode, we're gonna dabble in this one. I don't think you didn't need to watch AEW to talk about this one, so I think that one's pretty easy. I know Tidey is big on the draft, so we might touch on the draft a little bit since he missed out on it last week. He could just give a little something if he wants. And then if we do have time, we're going to hit up Triple H's booking of the women's division because I see a lot of people hating on it. And I don't have questions, but I think I have some answers. Maybe I can help out a little bit. So we're going to touch on that if we get time on this evening. Get these comments. We got... Thank you, babe. But you know, as always, it's you, not me, that's looking good. She says, hello, Tidey and Albert. And now she's calling me finger cuffs. No, I am not finger cuffs. This is not Chasing Amy. And that is not what we're doing here. But again, since we won't start off on the topic, we're going to start off with things we enjoyed last week. And we're just going to go a little bit around the circle here. And since Tidey was gone last week, I'm going to try and wake him up and let him go first here. Tidey, what about this past week stood out to you the most? What was your favorite part of wrestling this past week?
It was mostly just Raw in general, because but I only seen the Hulu part, so I didn't get to see the whole 3-hour cut. And I was going to ask you how much later on, if we get to the women's division stuff, how many matches, were there any other women's matches? But Trish Stratus, man, talk about a woman with a damn fire promo. I don't know what everybody else thought of it. I thought it was the perfect thing for a legend to say, perfect thing for a heel to say, and not acknowledge her dance partner who got her there, supposedly Lita. Man, that was a badass promo, man. Talk about looking like she did not care about what the crowd thought. She played a really good heel. I was kind of blown away because when it started, I was like, okay, all right. I'm like, damn. All right, Trish, calm down. Freaking brilliant. I love the Miz with Seth because it shows Miz can go. If you tell him to put on a couple minutes in there. That double DDT he did, I'll call it the double DDT Falcon Arrow. Man, yeah. that was badass. And the one he did to him on the corner, the Code Red or whatever. God, man, yeah. And the commentary. My favorite thing about it was the commentary was making it look like this is the tenacious Miz we need. This is the guy that, he was a former champion. Yeah, he's pissed off. They messed him up on Saturday and Sunday at WrestleMania. And he's got like more than just a chip on his shoulder. So it was it's nice to see that WWE would start this new WrestleMania going into next year with someone who's on USA. He's got a great show. He's already a star. Damn it. Let him wrestle. And Who do you know? Seth Rollins. Seth freaking Rollins, again, can pull a match off with anybody. But the fact that Miz held his own and the commentator team was right there behind him, that shit is brilliant. Like, that's how you take someone who was supposedly on and off, and then you boost his ass up because he's a USA guy. I'm damn happy about that. Those two things, that's what made my week.
So that's a great segue. Before we get to the segue, got Courtney joining us. Hello, Courtney. Thank you for joining us. So the Miz and Seth thing. Two things here. Anybody that watches the Raw recap knows, or been listening to me knows, I've been really harsh on Miz the past like 2 years. I respect the hell out of the man. I think what he's done is brilliant throughout his career. I do think his character has gotten stale. He hasn't really evolved it over the last few years like he kind of was before. You know, he just tweaks some things here and there and every once in a while. But what I saw from him on Monday night, I was like, this is the wrestling that I've been missing from him. Like, if he could tweak his character again and give me matches like this, I would never say another unkind word about him until we get to the point again a few years down the road. But I love what I saw from him. But two, you mentioned Seth Rollins getting a good match out of anybody. So that leads to the perfect question I have for both of you.
Wait. Before I think I know where you're going. Can I just jump in and just really quick say something about The Miz?
Absolutely. You won't get many opportunities to praise him on here, so go ahead.
I am sick and tired of seeing people say things along the lines of, I don't understand how they can put Miz in a position to be punched out by Snoop Dogg at WrestleMania and then taken seriously a couple of weeks later in a match with Seth Rollins. Okay, first of all, if you're not paying attention, everything that happened during WrestleMania was a surprise to The Miz. So he had no idea he was supposed to be wrestling. He's dressed in a suit. He's getting surprised, jumped by Shane McMahon and, Pat McAfee and Snoop Dogg. We've never not seen The Miz be prepared when he's been given a proper time to prepare for an opponent. It's not like they've ever neutered him to the point where he's been like, I'm like the worst wrestler. He's always been respected in that. He's a former two-time heavyweight champion. He's the second. He's one of two-time Grand Slam champions.
He's the first to do it. So.
He's the first, exactly the first to do it. I mean, the guy deserves the respect that can be put on his name, because he's one of those people that can be in the main event one week, and then the next week he can be in the opening segment with a celebrity, and he fits in seamlessly no matter what he does. The Miz is amazing at what he does.
I think the thing with Miz is I would hope that it's a lot of like kind of mine where it's like, again, I don't want to slander the man. I just feel like he has gotten stale because he's been around forever. And something that like, it's good on him that he's been able to stick around for so long and not really have to leave for long periods of time. But it also has kind of been detrimental to him because we've never had a chance to miss the Miz. I think his longest absence may have been for a movie or that injury he had like 2 years ago. Maybe it was last year. I'm not sure, where he was gone for like 4 months or something like that. I don't think we've had a chance to miss him. So when we see the same thing over and over, it's like, come on. I'd love Miz TV to just end. I don't think he needs that anymore. I would like to see him in a more serious role. And with the Seth Rollins match, we kind of saw him take it seriously. And what did he do? So I would want to see more of that. But to backtrack and go to the question that I was leaning into, Seth Rollins can pull a good match out of anybody. So with that said, Seth Rollins versus Omos has been announced for Backlash. Do we see Omos having a good match with Seth Rollins? Albert, I'll let you answer first here because I'm curious of people's opinions on this. 100%. Can Omos can he pull a great match out of Omos?
Can Seth Rollins have a bad match with anyone? I think that's a better question. I don't even care who he's in there with. There's a big debate on the internet about, I think GCW booked the wrestling blow-up doll. And that's like a whole big thing, is that real wrestling? Is it not? Yada, yada, yada. Here's the thing. There's a certain art and a drama to pro wrestling that Seth Rollins just seems to understand, paramount to a lot of other people in this industry. And
that's why I have him number one.
I mean, I can't disagree. In a lot of respects, I really can't. Everything he does, he knows exactly how to get the best, to placate to everyone's strengths and minimize their weaknesses to get the best match out of every person. I'm very weirded out that they didn't build this before they announced it, but they don't really ever do this in WWE. So I'm willing to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt to see where they're going with this, but I think it's going to be good. I can't see it not being entertaining.
Tidey, how about you? What are you expecting out of this match? Like, I guess realistically, what are you expecting from this match?
7-8 minutes is what I'm expecting.
Time wise, I don't think we should box a 7-8 minutes match could still be really good. So that's not the takeaway from it.
because I did want to see like a possibility of Omos crushing Brock in some way, but whatever, but it's better this way because Brock is now what he is, and he is terrifying. He is violence personified, and I'm back into like, after the Suplex City thing happened, I want to see Brock again, and I want to see him in that ring. So I'm very happy they went with a different direction, and Omos not winning. Now that Omos didn't win to that, can he beat someone smaller who's the professional Seth Rollins?
Yeah.
Like, that's always going to be in my head. So I'm just going to not think about certain things. I want to be surprised. I can't visualize what this match is going to look like, to be
it's
honest.
hard.
It's very hard. But I just want to see the next 3 weeks or whatever until Backlash, how they build it. Because like Rhea in Charlotte, I wasn't invested at all when I found out that was WrestleMania. But the last 2 weeks, it picked up.
Home
and I was
run.
like, oh shit, I actually care. Just like Trish right now, I didn't care what she was doing with Becky until that promo went off. Now I'm like, God damn it, I can't wait to what Becky says next, because this is going to be badass. It can build out of nowhere. Didn't have to have a build. You got 2 weeks. They've done it before. I don't know what MVP can say, but I'm just going to see what goes on with it. I'm so interested in it, but I'm also not going to think about it because I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's fair. Because like when I heard it, I was like, huh? Like, it's weird that they would just announce it without ever like them having a face-to-face or any kind of thing. It is very weird, and you're confused. Yeah, there's a lot of people confused on it, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna throw on my cape and put the S on my chest. I'm gonna play WWE Homer right now. Here's the thing. With WWE, a lot of their things have to do with analytics, and I think this is kind of like out of the fandom thing, so I don't blame people for not really thinking about this. But for something like this, I feel like I have to think of it in other ways to try and make sense of it. People always wonder, like, why are we getting Goldberg over there at Saudi Arabia? It's because they can look at their YouTube numbers and they can see where all these views of this is coming from. And if they're getting 90% of their views from Goldberg, from the Saudi Arabia crowd, obviously you want to put him on that card for that crowd. My only assumption here is that Omos, he does have some videos that pull bigger numbers than a lot of people because he's a spectacle, he is a giant, and as much as everyone hates the word, casuals are a real thing, and I have a real life experience of someone proving that Omos is a thing for casuals because he saw the man and that's all he could talk about the rest of the show. We had Seth Rollins versus Matt Riddle in a no disqualification match, and he was still just in awe of Omos and his size. So you want Seth Rollins on this card, hands down. He's the best wrestler in the world, in my opinion, and he's one of their top guys. You want Omos on there because people want to see him. Like, obviously, the diehard wrestlers, wrestling fans, probably don't want to see him that much because they don't think he's that good, and that's fine. But there are a lot of people who do, and there is analytics that prove that. Without a shadow of a doubt, they prove that. So that's my idea as to why they did it. I think they probably could have had them have a face-to-face or something along the lines prior to this. But I'm with Tidey. I'm going to wait out and see because I've seen other matches that have just been, hey, throw something against the wall, and then it ended up being really cool and it ended up being a lot of fun. So I'm not saying you shouldn't be confused on why the match is happening. I'm just saying there's probably a really good reason for it. And that's that.
I will say this, for the large amount of, wrestling fans on the internet that have been very negative towards other sections of fans saying things like, hey, I want a story to give me some intrigue in order for me to get involved into this match. The one thing I didn't see a lot of were WWE, fanboys going, oh, no, this is totally okay. A lot of people were like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Why are they doing this? How come this is booked? So much the same as we've felt about some of these AEW matches when, you have these random guys who no one really knows get booked randomly onto a weekly show. And rightfully so, wrestling fans are going, well, why is this match booked?
Kind
We're
of
doing
rightfully
the same
so.
thing here.
Yeah, kind of rightfully so. I'm a person that believes that sometimes random matches should be happening.
Sure.
I just think that that's the case. But anyway, moving on from that, I'll go back to the Raw. Tidey had asked a question about women's wrestling on Raw. I went through my notes. I got all the stuff women's wrestling related that happened on the show. We got a Dakota Kai versus Bianca Belair match. I don't know if you saw that one.
Damn it.
Yeah, that happened. And I'll say this, it started off kind of sluggish towards like the middle and the end. They kind of found their groove, and it ended up being a decent match. Bayley's interactions were very interesting here. We had, where'd it go? Candice and Mia Yim take on Chelsea and Sonya so that Sonya and Chelsea could get a win before their tag title match. Nothing crazy about the match. It was pretty short, but that happened. And then we had obviously the Trish Stratus promo, which I'll just leave it. The Trish Stratus promo. I like a lot of what she said. I'll say that. I do like a lot of what she said. I thought it was very cool.
I'm also happy that they're building a women's story outside of just the title picture.
Oh no. What happened?
Technological differences? What was it?
Yep.
Uh-oh.
There we go. Sorry, I locked my thing because it's weird. But now we'll move over to Albert. Albert, last week, a lot of wrestling. I don't know how much you watched, but there's some stuff there for you. What was your number one moment from wrestling last week?
Gunther versus Xavier Woods for the Intercontinental title on SmackDown. I mean, just another banger from Gunther, and you're expecting it now. Everything he does seems to turn to gold. But Xavier Woods has been just the most underrated guy like on the roster, and it's so hard to call somebody who is a record-setting tag team champion, underrated, but he is. And somehow everybody talks about Kofi Mania, and everybody was like, "Well, we can't wait for Big E to finally get the World Championship." And everybody just sleeps on Woods. Always puts on a good match, whether it's in a tag match, whether it's in a singles match, and this was no different. I think he showed up. I think a bigger guy like Gunther should have been a problem for someone like Woods to have a good match against, and he proved that it wasn't. I loved it. It was. I thought that should have been the main event.
I think Gunther is kind of impossible. He's in the Seth Rollins realm right now, where I think it's kind of just impossible to have a bad match with him.
Yeah,
I love Xavier getting that moment with him. Go ahead, Tidey.
Agreed. Like all the, as they say back then, Walter matches. Man, fought Kushida. I mean, you could think of almost everybody on the NXT UK, and they were all ridiculously good.
Yeah.
That guy I don't think he can really do wrong. He is like a Seth. I was going to agree completely.
Here's a little tidbit. The first time I ever watched an NXT UK show, it was when Jordan Devlin, Tidey's guy right there, old helmet head.
Greatest in the world. He's not a helmet
he wrestled
head.
Finn Balor. He wrestled Finn Balor. And on that show, I don't remember who Pete Dunne wrestled, but afterwards is when Walter made his debut to NXT UK. And I didn't know anything about Walter. I'm not going to play stupid here. But just his presence alone on that thing, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to start watching NXT UK because that guy looks legit. And I've watched a lot of his stuff. I've went back and watched all his stuff like not all of it, but I've watched a lot of his stuff prior. I'm blown away by how great he is, and he just keeps getting better. I love that when he beats people, it's never the same move.
Yes.
He choked Xavier out. I've seen him win with a power bomb, with just all sorts of crazy moves.
He's won with like he has that driver. Yeah. He's got and I love that.
So part of because I believe we've all done this in our lives. We've thought about, well, if I'm a professional wrestler, what will my music be? What will this be? What will my move set be? And things of that nature. I never wanted a finisher. I just wanted to just relentlessly beat people down and beat them that way, because I feel like that's way more demoralizing. And that's kind of what I'm getting with Gunther. And I think that's why each time I see him, I'm just like, man, I love this guy a lot more and more. He's creeping on my top 5 at this point.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and
absolutely.
Him and Xavier. I love Xavier. I'm a big Xavier guy. So that match was great. Xavier, loved him. He did great. Xavier always, I'm so mad he didn't get a singles title run last year. I'm so mad about it.
Well,
I don't know if you.
Oh,
go ahead.
What I remember about Xavier, it was like when it was the New Day and it was the 3 of them, I didn't see him in the ring a lot in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then it could have been a couple years after, and then the last 4 years or whatever, yeah, the dude started showing out, and probably versus the Usos, whatever. And since then, the dude has been damn good. Because when I always wanted to see him in singles matches, and this was a perfect example of what he can do in a singles match. Like, the dude could have been doing it a while ago.
Yep.
He went from someone I was like iffy about to like, holy shit, he's really good.
Yeah.
And you know, good on him, because honestly, when was the last time he's been in a match?
Singles match? I couldn't tell you. I know he wrestled LA Knight. I think he wrestled LA Knight a few weeks ago.
That's right. It was that.
But
so LA Knight, he goes to the biggest people. He gets LA Knight that all of us fans just love right now for the last couple of months. And then he goes straight to Gunther. What a way to start off 2023, dude. Props to him for pulling some shit off.
He's a good in-ring hand.
I read something that he has been undefeated, because he was King of the Ring last year too, but he's undefeated in singles matches up until this past week since August of 2021.
He's the last person to officially beat Roman Reigns.
Yes, that's right. He beat him by disqualification. He's been he hasn't lost a singles match in like 2 straight years. It's crazy. It's
just they take so long to get to the next one. It's like we has one, and 5 months later he has his next. It's like, come on, man, he's so much better than this. And it's, oh man, we have the draft coming out, Tidey, for WrestleBuddy. We did a fantasy draft. I want you to watch it, because I want you to see what your boy did for one of your favorite shows.
Write it down.
Write it down. You're not going to want to miss what I did for the NXT.
He destroyed me. Is what he did. He destroyed me.
But let's see. We got. Oh, my glasses going off. Jordan Devlin. Yeah, so many good people came out of there. Where was I at? Xavier. Yeah, shameless plug here. I don't know if you read it, but when he did beat Roman Reigns by disqualification, I was so like hyped for him. I went off on WrestleBuddy and I wrote a little article about why he should be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns. Feel free to go back and read it. I was definitely off my rocker, clearly off my rocker, but it sounded good at the moment. Like, it really did sound like a brilliant idea at the time. I was clearly not thinking right, but that's how highly I think of Xavier Woods. I just want that.
That is 95% of fantasy booking. They all sound so good in the moment.
Yeah. I'll just say I'm man enough to sit here and say, like, look back on things and be like, nope, that was bad. That was a terrible idea. But I don't think he was double champion at the time either. He was still Universal. He was nowhere near 1,000 days or anything. So it's not like I was like crazy. I was just a little bit crazy. But now it's my turn. I'm going to kind of go talk about 2 shows, but I'm not going to talk about anything about the shows in particular. I'm talking about the layouts of the show and how the shows progressed, because I thought there was 2 of them that I just loved. Raw opened up with the Bloodline Judgment Day segment, in which really gets you kind of like, oh, where are they going with this? This is kind of interesting. And then throughout the whole show, they played into that storyline, and it went all the way through the main event, and then ended with this massive bang. Like, Raw was a fun ride, and most of it has to do with the fact that they had this one storyline that started the show, ended the show, and filled in some gaps in between, and then everything that they put around it worked perfectly. The segment placement and everything was just a fun, smooth ride. Like, I don't want to get on some roller coaster and have it jerking my neck all around. I want to go on one that's really fun and smooth. Like, yo, so when I get off, I'm like, that was amazing. That was just a fun time. And I know it was such a fun time because when I did the Raw recap afterwards, I literally could not stop smiling. I was grinning from ear to ear because I just loved the show so much. And they didn't do anything crazy special. They just really played into, like, this is the storyline of the evening, and then we're going to fill it with not just filler, but like stuff that matters. And it was all good. And we ended it with a bang. Having 4 factions go into some kind of warfare, really cool. Sucks that it's not closer towards Survivor Series, because that could be amazingly fun. But I'm fine with it because, one, what it does is it puts Judgment Day on another level, which they should be, because Damian Priest is Rhea Ripley is boom. Finn Balor deserves these moments. There you go, Finn Balor today. And then we already know what I think about my man Dom. They should be looked at because realistically, they've been the second best story in WWE. And they're going up against the Bloodline, which is like the greatest of all time. So it's like, realistically, any other time with the bloodline like not being a thing, this could have been the most entertaining aspect of wrestling. Judgment Day, Dom, like no joke. That's not fanboy speaking. That's realistically speaking. But we already know Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They're up there and they've been there. And LWO, because I hear so many people complain like LWO's losing so much. LWO is be treated like a joke, and LWO, and it's like, I don't know what you're talking about, because one, they're on the show every single week. Two, they're not being presented as jobbers. I don't care about their win-loss record. You know what to do with it. Shove it somewhere. Win-loss records don't really matter at least in WWE. They don't, because it's more storyline driven. They're going to use disqualifications and run-ins way more than everyone else. That's just how they do their things. So when someone loses, like the LWO, I would be very confident to guess that probably 9 times out of 10 of, let's say they have 10 losses, out of 9 out of those 10 losses, interference was involved. Would be willing to bet. So it's not like they're just getting thrown out to the wolves and destroyed. They're part of the show every week, which is like,
all their matches are competitive.
I say the same thing with Chad Gable. Like, people will talk about he's poorly used. No, he's a big part of Monday Night Raw. Significant part of Monday Night Raw. LWO is kind of getting to that point. Well, now you have to look at them as like, yeah, they are at that point, because they helped out Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Riddle. They jumped the Usos. They basically beat down the Usos during the main event. And then the Usos called them out in a segment. So LWO is now getting elevated just by being associated with Judgment Day and Rey Mysterio and Dom and all that. And they're going to end up in a feud with the Usos. I 100% guarantee they end up in a feud with the Usos. Go ahead. You got something?
Well, if you're going to put them against two of the bigger factions that are more established over for a long time, I mean, they can't just come out and whoop their ass. That's point number one.
Exactly. Perception
that's
is
not
huge.
going to happen. Other thing is, they are kind of the baby faces of it, and they're kind of getting beaten and mistreated and disqualifications, whatever. If anybody thinks that Ray and Escobar can't turn that around and start getting some W's, because it's going to happen.
Yep.
It's just that it just started. That's why I haven't been too upset seeing them lose. But I do see it on Twitter. Oh, Escobar lost again. Escobar lost again.
He's competitive.
Yeah, I want to see it. And I know it's going to happen. It's just, I wasn't expecting them to get the better of the Bloodline or Judgment Day. No, it's not going to happen immediately. No, okay. No.
Yeah,
they'll overcome them. That's the story.
Yes. So, and here's, I tend to look at bigger picture with these things when I see a bunch of people complaining. I really try to wrap my heads around things. And again, I know I'm called a homer or whatever people want. I know, whatever. I don't really care. I know what I'm chewing. I'm trying to make sense of it. And if other people are having hard making sense of it, I feel like if I can make sense of it, I will. So with LWO, I don't think the fans have really kind of grabbed onto him yet. And I think it's because Santos and Cruz, I can't remember the other guy's name. I apologize.
Joaquin
Wild. Yeah.
That's not Wild. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was. Okay. So in NXT, they were heels. So then they come up to the main roster, and then they're baby faces. They're helping Ray, and they're kind of just being the little brother that Ray's dragging along to the.
And they debuted on the main roster as heels too. It's not even like they debuted as baby faces. They were on the main roster as heels too.
Yeah. So I think turning them face was a great idea, because again, they were not getting reactions. And I think the best way to really make a heel more hated, you gotta have some kind of love for him at first. For you to be a great heel or a great baby face, I think there's 2 things that need to happen, or one thing that needs to happen for each one of them. If you're going to be a great heel, I think being a baby face first is going to help, because if people love you and then you turn your back on them, they're like, yo, why did he do this? And then you naturally just have this hatred towards him. And if there's a heel that gets over as a heel and you're like, man, I really want to cheer for this guy, but he's such a prick. A perfect example is Baron Corbin. Everyone hated this man for years. Then we got Happy Corbin. We could relate to him, and we all loved it. It was one of the most universally loved characters I've seen in a very, very, very long time. So to be a great heel, I think you should be getting over as a babyface first. And when you want to be a good babyface, you should get over as a heel first, because, again, you want to cheer a heel, but you shouldn't cheer a heel. Once they turn, you're like, oh, finally, yes, I can get behind it. And I think that's a very effective way to get your baby faces and heels the reactions you want. Dominic Mysterio, perfect example. He was over for like a second as a babyface, and then we're like, we hate this kid. He needs help. He needs something. And then they did something, and then we're like, yo, he's really good at this. It works. So LWO, they're going to get over a little bit as a babyface, working with Ray, who's one of the best babyfaces in the history of wrestling. And then Santos is going to turn on him.
Yeah,
and then we're going to get to see the really good work from Santos, because in NXT, he was fantastic as a heel. He's one of my favorite parts of NXT. And the years before the moments before I stopped watching, I was like, man, I love Santos. And then every time I tuned in afterwards, I was like, I still really love Santos. He's really good. So
the other thing is that they've been around for what, less than a month? This isn't something. I mean, you throw the LWO thing on it to give it a little nostalgia for older fans like us, but we remember a lot of the people that are watching wrestling right now are way younger. They don't even know what the LWO really even is. Yeah. So we're not, like, they're not going to catch on immediately and be, getting like these enormous pops coming out. The association of Rey Mysterio is, like you said, to get them over.
Yeah.
And that's what they're going to try to do, to make them more integral parts of the show. If you make them, like, all right, so now we're throwing them in with the Judgment Day, this group that's been, running roughshod over Raw for how long? Like, it's just exposing them more. That's how we build stars.
Yeah.
But apparently wrestling fans don't understand how stars are built, because all I keep seeing is Solo Sikoa is overexposed. You mean being built well? Come on.
Go ahead, Tidey.
And plus, for me, like, I haven't seen enough Latin representation. Like, I want to see something close to, like, hey, this could be a main eventer. This could go for a championship. And damn it, just give it to them. There was Raquel. Yeah, and everybody's like, oh, there was Bayley back then. But Bayley's been on. Raquel finally got a title. And you know what? I like that she cheated. They cheated to win that. So I'm like, I'm having hope they're just going to turn them heel. And because Raquel is badass as a heel. And I think that'll work for her and Liv.
She was great in NXT as a heel. Like, it was great.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
But the Latino World Order, it also got me excited as a fan, because I want to see the representation. I know no one like Zelina and Escobar can represent that. You put them with Rey Mysterio, and then in 6 months to a year, they turn on him. You got two of the biggest Latin stars there will be if they do that right. And I am so excited just for that in general, because we need that, period, in WWE.
The LWO thing, it's cool and all. It definitely was a cash grab. That's the only reason they did it, because they're going to Puerto Rico and all that. I was so mad, though, when I saw them do it on SmackDown, and I was like, oh, wait. Okay, I know what shirt I'm buying this weekend at WrestleMania. And I go to the store, and all they had was the red, white, and blue ones. And I'm like, this is not what you promised me on SmackDown. I was torn up about it. But that's a great thing to bring up, the representation. Like, Santos is a perfect, like, person for that. Unfortunately, I don't see him being a main eventer. I really don't. I think there's something.
No.
Hey, let me tell you something. I've been wrong, and I would be through the roof if he proved me wrong. I just think he's missing just something that makes him that main event guy. So maybe he can get over on the main roster more so than he did in NXT. We saw with Elias. Elias was shit in NXT. Comes to the main roster, and he has one of the best crowd reactions I've ever seen from a heel when he went to Seattle. So it's possible.
In NXT,
but realistically, top like Intercontinental Champion, like that level, I can see Santos there.
The last 4 to 5 months in NXT, they were just getting cheered, and they were bad guys.
Yeah,
but the whole crowd's cheering. I'm at home cheering. Like, I'm telling you, man, I know Santos could do it. All right, maybe not be a main eventer, but he'll be a guy being the main event every now and then. That's all I want.
That's fine. He could be a guy that, like, again, he runs the mid card. Like, he could have a nice run, like Austin Theory with the United States title. And then if you ever need to just plug a 6th person in the elimination chamber that's going to really show out, Santos is perfect for that.
The Kofi Kingston role.
There you go.
Thank you.
Perfect. Dolph Ziggler, the Miz. Yeah. We were just talking about the Miz. I think he can be that kind of guy for sure. If he wins a world title, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm just not good. I wouldn't put money on it. That's what I'm saying. Okay. But also, I talked about the layout of Raw. I didn't get to really watch all of Dynamite. I just kind of watched out of it with no sound. And I know a lot of people crapped all over the show. And from what I saw, because I watched about an hour of it with sound and the rest of it without sound. But from what I saw, I think the layout, much like when I praised it last week, was better this week. And I know people are all, ratings. The ratings went down again. Well, they're gonna go down when you're transitioning into something new, which they are clearly doing. They're transitioning the way they put their shows together. I see it. It's as clear as day, and it's about time. I've been saying it for a long time. And once you kind of have it established, then you're going to start to see the numbers kind of gradually go up. If they can continue to put on good TV. Like I said, this past week wasn't that great, not compared to the week before when it was just amazing. But you're allowed to have duds every once in a while. Like a lot of people defended WWE for that Raw after Mania. So Dynamite's allowed to have bad ones too, 100%. And it wasn't even necessarily bad. It just wasn't really up to par. I really love the layout of their show, though. They opened with a segment that led into what happens in the main event. And I talk about this. I want matches naturally progressing on the show. We didn't know what the main event was for Dynamite until that segment. So that's great. That's going to keep me tuning in because I'm like, okay, I see what you're showing me, but now you're starting to tell me that new stuff could happen. So, okay, that's a good idea. And they're really focusing on the younger guys, which I said they should be doing for the past 6-7 months. Like, you got to see eventually sink or swim. We've invested a lot in these guys. There are 4 pillars. Can they carry it for us? And they're really trying to do it. I appreciate it. The segment between Jericho and Cole and Britt, I know a lot of people crapping on it. And again, I don't think it was the best segment. But guess what? I don't like Chris Jericho because I don't like what Chris Jericho has become. I feel like he's a parody of himself. But I now really hate that man after this segment. And I also hate the Outcasts for what they did. I don't know if you saw it, Tidey, but Adam Cole praised Chris Jericho. You know, he's a hero of his. And Chris Jericho says, well, I don't respect you. They start fighting. Adam Cole gets outnumbered. Jericho appreciates his side. He joins in. Then they handcuff him to the rope. This is where one complaint is. He wasn't really handcuffed. I guess they couldn't cuff it to the bottom rope. Adam Cole did an amazing job of selling it, though. He didn't act like, oh, well, like he held the rope and made it look like he was really handcuffed. So props to him. I'm going to give him all the props I can because it's Adam Cole, baby. Britt came out to save him, and then she slapped Chris Jericho, and then she kind of like backed them down. But as she was backing them down, the Outcasts slid in behind him. Saraya, Tony Storm and Ruby Soho slid in behind, got the kendo stick, and beat the piss out of Britt Baker in front of Adam Cole while he's just trying to get free and save her and everything, while Chris Jericho and his society are just all laughing, watching the whole thing. It's a great segment. It wasn't, I feel like it was missing something. I don't know what it was, but I feel like it was an effective segment. I'll say that because I hate Chris Jericho right now. And I hate the Outcasts. I'm clearly going to have a little bit more feelings because I love Adam Cole and I think Britt Baker's amazing. But I'm not the only one. I know. I think it was an effective segment. I think the matches are really starting to kind of differentiate in times. I don't think every match should be 15, 15, 15. I just don't. It's formulaic, and I don't like it. They've been kind of playing with it a little bit more. So kudos to AEW again. I'm not going to shit on them because of ratings, because that's never anything I'm ever going to do. I think they're going in the right direction from my point of view, my perspective, on what I think will help them become a more successful show. But
it's ironic because those are the same things that we mentioned last week right here on the show last Sunday. Those are the critiques we had for AEW, and then out of nowhere, boom, the week after, they actually did a bunch of the stuff that we were. Just so everyone's clear here, like I've been saying it for years.
And then Tidey started watching AEW when he has time, and he'll check it out. And some of the things he was talking to me about were kind of the same things. Like, and I'll go ahead and put this out too. They've made a hype video for Orange Cassidy versus Bandito on this week's Dynamite. I'm already going to tune in because Bandito's great, and Orange Cassidy is literally the man right now. I don't care what anyone says, talk to a wall, argue with him. I don't care. Orange Cassidy is that good right now. I'm hyped for that match. Go ahead. What you got?
So, do they have so is Britt and Adam Cole like together in real life, or is
this
just
that's a real life couple? Okay, I thought you knew about this.
I didn't know. So, okay, that makes it 800% more interesting.
Okay,
to me,
sorry.
Because I actually love Jericho.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's done in AEW, but he's probably playing a good heel and he's pissing you off. But that is, I love me some Chris Jericho. I saw how he was doing with Sammy and them. I think it's like dude, that's really good if they're picking on Adam Cole and they got Britt together. That is going to be interesting.
So it started when Adam Cole, he came back. He wanted to challenge Daniel Garcia, which is one of Chris Jericho's little goons. He came out. He challenged him. They had a match. Adam Cole won. They showered him in confetti like they used to do back in the Ring of Honor days. And then Chris Jericho came down to help Daniel Garcia, got upset, gave Adam Cole evil eye, and walked away. Next week, Chris Jericho was fighting Keith Lee because Keith Lee stood up for him out of respect for Adam Cole because they have history. And then they started to beat down Keith Lee after the match. Adam Cole came down to save him, did the same thing. Kind of that's how the whole thing started. So, yeah, but they're a real life couple. Like they've been together for a long time.
That's really cool, dude. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That just makes it even more interesting for me.
Yes. But yeah, the hype video, again, I don't care if people want to give me shit for saying like I want these things because they help. And this is a clear example of it because I was like, can't wait to watch that match to like, can we please have that match right now? It's effective. Like, don't hate on promo videos. They're great. Yeah, you can see what Britt's face looks like on Twitter if you scroll just a little bit. I'm sure you'll find it because she got
Soraya's profile picture now.
There you go. Soraya's. Just go to Soraya's page. You'll see it.
Yeah, it's Britt Baker with a big old black eye.
What's crazy about this is the only people that I think really considered her to be a pillar are myself and CM Punk.
Apparently, yeah.
And then love Bandito's great. I think Bandito's awesome. So yeah, I kudos to Raw and Dynamite because the layout of the show is so important to me because I'm watching it as a TV show, not as a sporting event. And layouts in TV show matter. You can't just go like everywhere. Just give me one smooth ride. Keep it up, please. Thank you. But with that, I'm sure there's other things we could talk about, but we need to move on to the main point of tonight's show. Bill Goldberg. Again, I don't think you need to know too much about AEW here, Tidey, because you know who Bill Goldberg is.
Yeah.
I'm one of the people that's in agreement that they definitely should try and get Bill Goldberg on that roster, especially if they're going to Wembley, because he is a big name that is going to help sell tickets. And whether they like to admit it or not, he is going to bring in viewers and money to your show. Do I want him to be dominating people in AEW? No, I don't. I want him to be used realistically the way he should be used. Perfect example to an extent is Sting. I think Sting has been handled almost perfectly in AEW with a few too many things that they probably shouldn't have done. But for the most part, he's been used very wonderfully. Goldberg, I think, should be used here as well in that same essence. 3 matches, too. You don't have to keep him around forever. 3 matches. That's fair. So with your little bit of knowledge, Tidey, if you were to book Bill Goldberg at Wembley Stadium with who you know on that roster, who are you booking? And who's going over? Who is going over? You want me to come back? You can think about it for a second.
I'm gonna have to think about that because my roster. I mean, I know like
yeah. I got you. Albert, same question. Bill Goldberg comes to AEW. Who are you booking him against at the Wembley Stadium, and who is going over?
There's only one answer: a returning Marco Stunt, obviously.
That would be fantastic. And Marco Stunt better go over.
Of course. No. In all seriousness, I think you put him against Wardlow, and Wardlow beats him. That's straight up.
That's the popular opinion for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not against it. I'm definitely not against it, but
Wardlow's been played around with so much. Again, I like a lot of what AEW does. I wasn't a fan of this hot potatoing of this TNT title with him and Hobbs. If you're going to give Hobbs a run, give him a run. If you're going to give Wardlow a run, give him a run. This start and stop stuff that they've done with him and Sammy Guevara has only proven to hurt their stock, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't like that. You want to get him back on the right track? You want to get him over? You want to put him back where he was a couple of months ago when he was in the thick of the CM Punk and MJF feud? You put Wardlow over in the middle of the ring in Wembley Stadium over Goldberg. Wardlow's your, if he doesn't main event the next pay-per-view against MJF, you're crazy.
Yeah, that's a great way to get to Wardlow and MJF again too. And fantasy booking's coming up, and I think it's just too perfect to not even just put it out there in the universe. The perfect way to even do this, I would just have Goldberg come out into the ring, do his before he can even say who's next. Remember Wardlow when he used to come out? They used to get the Wardlow, just like Goldberg. He used to make the entrance like Goldberg. Do that. Have him come into the ring and say, "I'm next," and then just club them and have them start a brawl. Like off to the races. I think that would be a good one. Tidey, do you have a name yet?
Yeah, I wanted to get someone from old WCW. Like,
let's hear it, baby.
Well, I was just saying Sting or Jericho. Like, I want someone from old WCW. Like Sting, that. No, Sting wouldn't. No, he couldn't.
No. I'm saying Sting was a good option. I think if you're trying to sell some tickets, because you're going to get people who
Wembley.
Yeah, if you're really trying to sell as many tickets as possible, I would not want to see it because I fear that Goldberg might hurt the man, and he's too old to be getting hurt. But for the sheer attraction of it, if like this is a WrestleMania kind of WrestleMania level match to me, because it's a celebration of wrestling and its history and all that, and it's a match that is like going to take you down that nostalgia lane, and it's a really nostalgia is a very effective moneymaker. So I would get why they'd book it, but I wouldn't want to for the injury aspect. Chris Jericho and Goldberg, I didn't think about.
Jericho, I would say Jericho.
I wouldn't hate that.
I don't even know if they've had a one-on-one match. Have they? Did they WWE? Did they?
Yeah, Goldberg's second big feud was Jericho. Or maybe it was his first feud when he first debuted.
When he showed up, he went after The Rock.
Oh, yeah, so it was The Rock, and then it was Jericho after that. Jericho poured paint on his car. Okay. I don't know why I remember this.
I was checking out right about that time. So
I'm such a Jericho mark. That was like prime time for like Jericho's getting the main event push. I gotta be like watching Raw every week now.
Yeah, Bandito, former Ring of Honor world. Bandito's legit. I love Bandito so much. He's so fun. And then Goldberg, because again, if you want to sell tickets to Wembley and you got a lot of tickets to sell, you put Goldberg on that card and just do it in an effective way. Like, don't just put him on there and have him beat someone. No, that's what we're talking about. Albert says
I'd be okay with maybe answering an open challenge as a debut, just to bring him in, get him a big, get him a win. Some heel is spouting off and he gets a big win, and then have Wardlow beat him. This way, he comes in, he gets it, he gets his nostalgia win, and then put somebody over.
I think you want Goldberg's first match to be at that Wembley show to really get the effect of like, oh, I want to see this. I really want to see this. I want to see what's going to happen. I think you don't put him in the ring until then.
Okay, that's fair.
That's just how I see it. Like, you could definitely still do it and still sell it up to me. Clearly, I buy into anything. So, I want to go different because Wardlow is the clear answer. Jericho isn't a bad one because I've never seen it. And I don't know if you ever saw the old clips of it, but Tidey in WCW, Jericho, he tried to call out Goldberg all the time. But Goldberg was told never to answer. Like, he wanted to do a thing with Goldberg, and Bischoff said no. So he says, go ahead and do whatever you want. I don't care, but you're not going to wrestle Goldberg. So he proceeded to just clown on Goldberg in the most brilliant ways I've ever seen. It's what made me truly fall in love with Chris Jericho. He was so good. He had a security guard that he came out named Rufus that would just look like a truck driver. He had he came out with sparklers instead of the things, and he'd be like, burn. He got lost in the backstage area one time because he was going through the halls. He came out of his room, and then Rufus was taking him around the wrong hallways, and so he couldn't find the thing while his music was. It was so good. And the fact that they never said, you know what, let's have Goldberg just beat his ass real quick is so bad, because they could have made money on a pay-per-view with that. They
did one thing. So that's the catalyst to Jericho leaving WCW.
Goldberg as well.
so they ended up so the whole thing was that Terry Taylor started as a joke to Chris Jericho. He was like, go out and just do this.
Yeah.
So Jericho kept calling Goldberg Greenberg.
Yeah.
He kept making fun of him. He called him out when he knew he wasn't in the arena. So he was like, oh, I'm 2-0 against Goldberg.
That's right. He started the undefeated streak on Goldberg. That's right. Yep.
And then he speared Jericho 75 feet up the rampway. Jericho kicked his shoes off, sold it. It was nothing else, and we thought we were going to get a pay-per-view match, and then they just squashed it. Jericho was like,
crazy. I never saw that. I don't remember that at all.
It was on Thunder,
Okay.
So
That's
Jericho,
probably why it was on Thunder.
so Jericho calls Goldberg out, and he thinks Goldberg's not in the arena again.
Yeah.
And then they cut to Jericho in the entryway. He turns around and Goldberg spears him up the entryway. And it looks like we're going to get like this big match, and it never happens. And Jericho's like, if I can't get a 15-second squash match against Goldberg on pay-per-view, why am I even in this company?
Yeah.
And he refused to re-sign his contract.
Yeah. It's brilliant because he also brought in the Goldberg character, who was just like this 4-foot guy who was like, I'm Goldberg.
Yeah.
And then he tried to spear Jericho and he just bounced off of him. It's just such good stuff. So if we could get anything like that again,
Jericho,
give me Jericho. It's brilliant, Tidey. You didn't even realize how brilliant your choice was until you said that. Brilliant.
I thought WCW. So,
so you guys say that. I'm gonna go ahead and go just completely out of left field here. Just a crazy idea. Orange Cassidy.
I knew you were gonna do it.
Just to watch people's heads explode when he beats Bill Goldberg with an orange punch. Oh my goodness, that would be great. I would hate to give Orange Cassidy just that short of a match at a big show like that, but man, that would be so funny to watch.
There's no way Goldberg's agreeing to that. 0% chance.
With if it's not his last match, why not?
I just don't see. I don't see Goldberg giving back to the business like that.
Then he can't come to AEW.
He
can't come to AEW then. Oh, you know what? No. How about this? Hook. There's my real answer. Hook.
I'd be okay with that too.
Or Jade Cargill. Have Jade Cargill beat his ass. That'd be phenomenal. Oh man. Oh man, I might have to rethink going over
Streak versus Streak.
Streak versus Streak. That'd be great. Have Jade Cargill do it. So they have sold no tickets. They just have pre-sale. The pre-sale's at like 55,000. But that doesn't really say anything because I know people who've signed up multiple times. So I don't have a number. That's what's crazy about this. This could be really cool for them, or it could be really bad for them.
Here's my thing. So I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I think I'm going to do a whole series on this. We've lost sight of what we're talking about here. I think as wrestling fans, we're sitting here and we're so consumed and worried about how many tickets is AEW going to sell for when. I don't care. Okay. I don't care. And the reason why I say I don't care is that we know that the British wrestling scene is starved for content.
Oh, for sure.
You know that these fans are going to show up. Whether it's 40,000 or 30,000 or 50,000 or 100,000, it doesn't make a difference. If the place looks like it's full, it sounds like it's full, it has that British wrestling energy, and the wrestling is good, the show is going to be good. And at the end of the day, if the show is good, that's all that matters.
I don't want to disagree with you because I don't think these things matter to an extent. But visually, this thing holds 90,000 fans. If you only sell 25,000, that's their biggest gate, I think, to date. I could be wrong.
Wasn't the Arthur Ashe Stadium, wasn't that like 45?
No, they've not. I can look up, but I think 25 is their biggest gate.
You're right.
I could be wrong. I
thought the Arthur Ashe Stadium held like 45,000, and they got
that was like a 23, 24,000.
Okay.
So that's what's going to look bad on it. Is if you were having this pay-per-view that's all in, and it's like the history behind all in is that like they took a chance, and it was a very successful thing. And they're going all in on this 90,000 seat arena, and they can only sell 25,000 tickets. That's not even like, I'm not even looking at it from the number. I know I'm going to be watching it on TV because it's only 25. I'm not making a special trip for 25,000 fans. But I'm going to see that on TV, and it's going to be reflective of like, okay, man, I'm still going to enjoy the wrestling and all that. But at the end of the day, I want AEW to be successful. I want it to grow. I want it to be a huge success. And this might make it a little harder for me to think they're going to get there because that English crowd is very starved for wrestling content. I agree with that 100%. It's part of the reason why it's on my bucket list to go to a UK show. I know it's going to be the funnest wrestling time I've ever had in my life. And if I could go to something that could be a massive thing in wrestling history, like AEW doing 60,000 at Wembley Stadium, like AEW's current attendance record is 20,177. So not even 25, 21.
Wow.
Okay. So to make that jump from like 21 to 60,000 would be incredible. It would be really cool. And I'd want to be a part of that. I definitely want to see it. And 60,000 isn't going to be a glaring problem in a 90,000 seat arena. 25,000 is, though. It's going to, unfortunately. Like, I see it in some of the shows they're doing now that are only like 3,000, like in those arenas, and they have them dark, like blacked out in areas, and it has no impact on how good the show is. At 100% doesn't. I still enjoy the shows and everything, but in the aspect of wanting it to be just really successful and grow, that's my issue with not selling enough tickets.
Well, it's the brand. I mean, like, if you're Tony Khan and you're like, I'm expanding my brand, I'm sure everybody have balls, and I'm going to do this crazy thing because, I can do it and I can do it.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that idea.
I love that he did it,
you
for sure.
Hurt the idea of well, it would at least hurt his own ego, where it's like, man, I thought I was a big boy, but now maybe everybody else thinks that, I'm just a kid still growing up. I would say I wouldn't have the balls to do it.
No,
I would wait another year. For me, if I was Tony Khan personally, wait another year to do that shit.
And then think of this though, just to cut in real quick. He has a stadium in Jacksonville that he could do and not that's his. It's his stadium. He don't have to pay or anything. Like it's there in the home of AEW. That's what they branded as, Jacksonville, the home of AEW. He could do a show there, and he hasn't. Fulham, they own a Fulham club over there. There's a stadium there. He could have done it there, and it probably would have been more full for sure. And that's banking on, not banking, but just thinking that they're not going to sell as many tickets as maybe they think they are. If they sell like 30,000, he probably could have done it in his stadium. So to do it in Wembley is ballsy, and I applaud him for it. Go for it. Go for it, baby. I want to see it happen.
It won't make us wrestling fans not stop watching it, it won't make us not care. It's just that, I kind of feel bad for the dude if he can't get the whole, but if he does, it's awesome because he better have some good matches. He better have Jade Cargill be a main event. I don't give a shit. That woman's a star. They need to do that. They need to have a couple of big matches. Screw it. Pepper and Goldberg, all kinds of stuff. I really hope they know the promotion leading up to it, because I think within the last month, probably I can ask you how you feel about it. And then that'll probably give me all the answers I need to know. And then I'm going to add 50% on top of that, because that's how many UK people are going to go on top of what we think might be there. I think they're going to fill in the gaps of what we think might not be there. So I'm guessing at least 60,000.
Okay, that would be tremendous. And just to touch on AEW, since I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks about it, I think the show is becoming something that you would be able to follow along to a lot easier.
Well, you said Adam Cole and Britt Baker. That means a lot to me. I didn't know that, dude. That's huge. And beefing with Jericho, that shit's gonna be fun.
The Wardlow segment from 2 weeks ago was really fun. He destroyed the car with a forklift. Just kind of the stuff that I think you need to help show how deep the feud is. Don't just keep cutting promos all the time. Tell me how much you hate each other. Show me, what are you guys doing to each other? So,
and a good way to get kids to see something really fun on a damn wrestling show. Finally, AEW doesn't have to just book for people that are our age. Let's book for the future of the wrestling fans. Man, a forklift, taking apart a car, that's fun. I don't care what age you are.
So, a great way. You just brought this up. My son, he loves a bunch of the wrestlers in AEW. If he's up and he sees them on, he'll watch them, but then he doesn't really want to watch the rest of the show. Things like that are going to make him want to watch the rest of the show. But we might skip the draft talk because I do want to talk about this. It's been a very big topic, and I just want to try and help. That's all I want to do. I just want to help people. Triple H, since he took over for creative, there's been a lot of complaining about the booking of the women's division. I'm not going to say I disagree, because I think it definitely could be booked better, but I also disagree because I think it hasn't been as bad as everyone says it is. The biggest difference between him and Vince McMahon is I see a lot of the girls get more time in ring than they ever did with Vince. You still see short matches, which, again, I don't care if you're male or female. Short matches should be a thing. It shows levels to it. And then, two, the segments are still there. So my questions are, Albert, would you say it has been better or worse since since Triple H took over for Vince McMahon?
Better, like hands down better.
Okay.
I think the women's tag team titles have actually had some added emphasis. I think all the title feuds that Triple H has booked have been interesting. Has it been perfect? Not. I think they could have started off Damage Control a little bit hotter. I think they could have made them a little bit more formidable so that, they could have been more of a threat. Because right now, it's a little bit. They didn't start off too great. But other than that, I really think I've enjoyed what Triple H has done. He's tried to at least give us a little bit of story outside of the main, title feuds, which I appreciate. And I think that there's a lot of people that focus on, and we've had this conversation before, counting the minutes of wrestling on a wrestling show.
Yeah,
I understand that maybe the women only got an 8-minute match, but they were in 3 different segments, and then we got Rhea and Zelina is going to be booked for Puerto Rico, which is a huge match for them. I think that he's doing what we want him to do. There's just no answer, and you're not going to please everybody. No. I think he's doing a good job.
Yeah. Okay, so my man Lou says I don't want to help. I just want to create chaos. Look, man, I torment the hell out of Manny because he deserves it. So he deserves chaos. I do want to help though, man. Thank you for watching though, Lou. Appreciate it. So you have like nothing that you've seen that is like a glaring like, man, I have an issue with that as far as how the women's division has been booked.
Nothing that's like so like egregious that it upsets me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Tidey, over to you. Because I know there's been times where it's been kind of down for you, and I get it 100%. But
so my answer is a little bit different. You know what, man? I miss the 4 horsewomen. I miss the Thunderdome era where Bayley was a fucking. Sorry, I'm cussing. I'm a little upset. She was a star. Get Io and Dakota. Again, that's the first year of Triple H. So this, after WrestleMania, I really wanted something to kick off. That's why I was really happy just to see Trish bring some heat to Becky. Like, Becky, you need to answer this. But anyways, Trish ain't going to acknowledge you. She's a badass heel. Drops the mic. I love that crap.
Yeah, it was good.
My problem is I wrote down all the women on the roster, and I'm trying to, and I know it's the beginning of the year, so I'm going to give it like 2 more months to really start letting my feelings get to me. I'm trying to think with my head on this one, because I'm Bianca, Rhea, Raquel, Liv. So Raquel and Liv, main title people. So we know something's going on with them.
Yep.
Possibly even a heel turn. That's interesting. Thank you. Trish with Becky. Now it's interesting. Thank you, Trish. I cannot not compare it to NXT. They don't have a thing like WrestleMania. Let's start a whole new year of story, and Triple H finally got his hands on his roster. Now he's ready to go. So he needs time. I'm going to be fair with that. But I cannot not. Now, I can name a couple people on NXT that are starting to rise and how they even affect the story. Roxanne, Zoe, Indy, Tiffany. Tiffany's the new star. She's been killing it. Everybody would say that's undeniable. Zoe is the star before Tiffany, technically, in my opinion. Tiffany's better in a different way. But Zoe just needs a little bit more mic skills, etc. But in that ring, she is truly undeniable. You just gave the belt to Indy Hartwell, who the criticism and the promos are right there in NXT. They're criticizing, like, you're just going to give it to some random person that she's beatable. And then she's going to give out matches, like Tiffany's saying, just to anybody else. They got rid of Roxanne because Roxanne she's great. She's the little prodigy. She's a great babyface. She's getting better as a babyface just from her promos even this last week. And they tied it all together very nicely because Zoe just got beat by Roxanne, and it was a hell of a match. Roxanne has to prove that. She had a simple promo of, my personality beats your athleticism. Whatever. But for her, a babyface promo, I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's really good. She just beat Zoe. What happens? Indy comes out, and Indy says, hey, I accept it. We can have a match.
Yeah.
Right before, here comes Tiffany's music. So as a fan, I know what's going on. You cannot say that Tiffany is not like the brightest thing ever. When the promos go, etc.
Tiffany has it, and that's why I'm so high on her.
And Indy And Indy at this point has to prove it. You're going to give it back to Roxanne, who we just dropped it from, just so Roxanne can get better. We can elevate the other stars who truly deserve to be there, meaning Zoe and Tiffany. And then they agree to a 3-way fight. And finally, Indy's like, I'm going to prove. So I know what's going on. And that's my point. When I think about the other women in WWE right now, I don't know what's happening besides the main ones. I can't just say, hey, this is going on. And if I'm going to compare it to Vince's time, I don't like the name Vince, but if I'm compare it to Vince's time, I still respect the man. It's his company, and he did some great shit, and we wouldn't be here without him. I don't respect the person, whatever. But I remember the 4 Horsewoman, and it was such a better, joyous time. I remember just Bailey, and I was in such a better, joyous moment, just about women's wrestling in general. He had to take apart something that fell apart, call a bunch of people back. Triple H had to, and now rebuild something and give us tag teams, give us something since the Sasha fallout with, hey, tag teams are over and they suck. So he's had time to now build it, and it's credible enough to see it going somewhere. But because it's the new WrestleMania year and he's now got his roster, I have to wait for something to kick in. So I cannot help compare it to NXT, where I know what's going on. I know what these women's stories are. I can name a bunch. Shotzi, what's going on with her? Ronda, well, she's injured. Tegan, Natalia, Nikki, Dana Brooke, Charlotte. Charlotte's gone for a while. Who knows? Asuka, Bailey. Bailey's going somewhere, it looks like, with EO and some dissension. But that's all I got. So that's just my point.
So with NXT, you're gonna get. I couldn't give a reason as to why. I just couldn't, as to why NXT features their women more. I don't want to say anything that's going to sound disrespectful, so I'll just won't say it at all, because I don't want to be disrespectful. I love women's wrestling completely, but I just won't go there. I will say that in WWE, they just do things on Raw and SmackDown. The rosters are just treated differently, whereas NXT, it's like they're trying to get everybody as much time as they can because they're still learning the craft and all that. It's important for them to not have these long stays away. If they truly believe these guys are going to be the next call-ups for the main roster, they got to know that they're going to work on television. So they need as much reps as possible. You get them in there as often as you can. On the main roster, it's not needed, because you can talk about all the women that you haven't seen. You don't know what's going on with them. And just look at the men's side. How many men are we not seeing, and we just don't get to see them because that's just what it is. There's a rotation involved. And whereas I think the rotation could probably be used a little bit better. I think they could rotate people out a little bit quicker from time to time. I do think it's better than what it was with Vince, because with Vince, I feel like I was watching the same like 5-6 girls every single week on these shows.
Well, it's true. I mean,
on Raw, again, we don't see her that often, but every once in a while you get Candice LeRae and the Nikki story going on. It's nothing really. We just know Nikki's being a creep, but we also saw that real side to her that one week, just enough to keep us on the hook. And since it's not an every week thing, it's not something we could just be like, okay, keep going. It's just every once in a while, like, oh yeah, that's happening. Wonder what's next. Let's see, Piper Niven, she just gets utilized every once in a while. They bring her in and they take her out. Emma
Piper,
they bring her in, they take her out. There's a lot of girls on that rotation, and it sucks. I wish they could get more time. But I also think that the women's tag division, as I've been saying again for months, and I'm going to say it until everyone just finally shuts up about it, it's going somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
And once it really starts to get those wheels underneath it, you're going to see more girls on, because they're going to need more tag teams. And you can complain all you want, people, about throwing 2 people together and forming a tag team. But again, that's how all teams are created. You got to see what's going to work and what's not going to work. So I'm glad NXT is being involved too, because we're going to see a lot of cool stuff. Eva, I don't know. I don't want her back. That's just my opinion on it, though. I don't think she offers anything solid to the thing. So again, again, I'm a fan of women's wrestling. I do wish there was more, at least in ring stuff, that we could see. And I wish we could see more women used, but that's just the nature of this business. And again, we see it with the men. I haven't seen Los Lotharios in forever.
Yeah.
I love some Angel Garza. So what's up with that?
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of men I can name off. I don't know what's going on with them lately as well. Because I understand there's an hour and a half on SmackDown, there's 3 hours on this, and if they can do a Judgment Day, like you said, on Raw and Bloodline, that's sprinkled throughout beginning and end, and nail that flow. It's a harsh business. They have way too many stars, and people need to be able to. I understand the other part of how it works. There's only so many spots, and then there's stories that are definitely going to be on, and you want to hope that as a wrestler you can get into a story or at least get into a feud. Like, I was proud of Bronson Reed, a star made out of nowhere. I forgot that, dude. I completely forgot that, because I'm like, okay, so it's gonna be Bobby versus what's his face, Theory. And then out of nowhere,
I'm like, okay,
you? It's not happening. And then he hits. I'm like, oh, that's right. Brilliant. You almost made me forget about it, because I gave up as soon as I saw that. And I was so much into the match. So that when he came, I was like, oh, that got me as a viewer. But I'm not shitting on WWE. I'm giving it time. I'm definitely giving it time, because I know if I came into a place with a broken roster and had to rebuild something and rebuild a legitimate women's tag team instead of scrapping the titles and eating my ego, like, you have to build something. And I get that. It's just, I know it's hard with the amount of airtime that they have, that it ain't easy, man.
I think the funniest part about what you just said was, I just remember when Triple H took over, everyone was excited. Everyone was happy. But everyone said the same thing. Well, it's not going to happen overnight. He needs time. And it's like, he still needs some more time. It hasn't even been a year yet. So again, I've seen differences. I think other people see differences. I think when emotions get involved, they kind of start to forget those things and start being like, well, please me. And it's like, And you brought up another good point, the NXT, the Four Horsewomen. We're kind of starting to dwindle into those days where they're not going to be like a focal point anymore. I'm personally excited for that. Part of the reason when I tuned back into wrestling back in like 2007, 2008, after being away for so long, was I didn't really know anybody, and certain people caught my eye, CM Punk being one of them. And that's what made me excited. I was like, okay, I'm new faces. That's what I want to see. And I know that sounds like a crazy thing, because everyone's like, well, Becky and Bayley and Charlotte, they're still on top. Yes, they are, because that's how you transition the new ones in. And I saw a thing today that I thought was really cool. It's like Triple H's new core four of the women, and it's, you got Raquel, Liv, Rhea, and Bianca. And it's like, that's a viable contender to go against that Four Horsemen, if we're being honest here. Rhea Ripley, I think, has more star power than all the other four. So, like, you already have a bigger star, in my opinion. Bianca is incredible in the ring. So you have your wrestler that, like, I think women's wrestling's like going in a good place.
And the other big thing now that I think we're forgetting is that this is Triple H's complete, and this is his time right here. All right, here we go. I have WrestleMania's done. He comes in during SummerSlam. He's got Vince's stuff to clean up. He can start instituting stuff that he wants to do. But we know what was happening. Triple H was biding his time, getting everything set up so he can put on the best WrestleMania possible, and then bam. These are my rosters.
Yeah.
This is what I want. This is my vision. This isn't Vince's vision anymore. It's no one else's vision. This is going to be what I want the WWE to be. I think that if once he takes the reins here, we get this brand split, and weekly television starts coming out, I think that's where we're going to see Triple H start to shine. I think we're going to see more emphasis on the women's division. I think we're going to see newer stars. I think this is where we're going to get a newer era in WWE.
Yeah. So,
thank you.
Yeah,
I need to hear that.
Nick Khan during WrestleMania weekend was interviewed, and he talked about how they have creative for the next year written. So that tells me throughout that entire time, they were working towards the future and just giving us weekly television to get us to WrestleMania. And
by the way, with one of the hottest storylines in the history of wrestling going on.
Yeah, he had to adopt that, and he's like, it's not an easy task. But my buddy Lou, he's saying here, too many stars, not enough shows. And I agree with that 100%, which is why I always pitch the idea of an all-women show, 1 hour a week on the network, so that those girls get time there. And then those storylines can just blossom into the main show. And then which stars to start getting more attention to.
And this is why I want WWE to be ridiculously successful. If they need more money, the more time, the more networks to pick it up, Man, yeah, I pretty much almost want a majority show that's mostly spotlighting women. I want Evolution back.
Yeah.
I
I
would
think it's
love
crazy
a
that they haven't
mid-card
even.
title. Just
Yeah.
give it to me.
I think it's crazy they haven't attempted to do the all women show. I just think it's crazy. You lost your NXT show on the network. It went to USA. So why not just usher in an all woman show and really help create some storylines, see what these girls can do, not under as much pressure. Like, hey, go ahead.
Do you think it's like a contract thing they have with USA or Fox, perhaps, to where they're part of the roster, so they can't just like make a show and just completely deviate them off?
I don't think so, because you see some of the guys that get drafted to SmackDown and then they end up going to NXT, and I think it's all part of a bigger plan. I think they realized that when they got into business with WWE, that things kind of intertwine, and that's just how it is. As long as they're getting their main stars, I think they're good. But I just think personally, and I've been preaching it, and I'm glad that I guess Albert's with me. Tidey, he's kind of see what I'm saying. I just think we've been a little bit too quick to just be like, man, it isn't getting better, but it kind of it has gotten better.
It has, yeah.
And
it is.
To go back to the SummerSlam thing and bring up Bayley, because you were talking about you want Bayley back as okay. So what Triple H did at SummerSlam is give Bayley creative freedom. He gave her what she wanted with Damage Control. And as much as I wanted it to succeed, I know it probably could have been booked a little bit better, but Bayley's made worse things get over. This hasn't clicked at all. And I think Bayley has tried to do what she was doing with Sasha with this, and this should have been taken more seriously. So I think it was a clash of styles. I think her idea was great. I don't think she was the person to do it, though.
I think it's interesting now, though, because
it's getting because of the fact that Bayley's kind of starting to get a little conniving and be like, okay, she's no longer being that person that's like, she's gonna be like, no, it's all about me. I don't care about the future. It's about me, and that's how she should, because that's what worked in the Thunderdome era. She was very good at it. So,
God, she's so good.
Get away from it. And once she does, I think you'll be happy with what happens with Bayley. And I'm not even putting it past EO to win the title at Backlash. I'm not even doing it.
And look where the bloodline story got really interesting. It was when there was a little bit of dissension. It wasn't just that Sammy showed up. It was that Sammy showed up and him and Jay didn't get along. And that's where the bloodline story starts, getting its legs. It's where people are starting to call it like this masterclass of storytelling, because we got a lot of good stuff before then, but that like brought it to like a new level.
Yeah, now, we want to see the meat and bones of this thing. We know where it's going, so start giving us what we want. Yeah.
Right. And now we see it with Damage Control. It wasn't exactly what we wanted, but now, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Are they going to butt heads? Are they going to break up? Are they not going to, there's a lot of unanswered questions. It makes it more interesting.
And I thought it was really cool that EO was the one that was like, no. We're tired of playing second fiddle to you.
Yeah.
I want a chance. And it's like, okay, that's cool. It wasn't like, I'm going to turn on you because you've been taking she stood up for herself. I want that to see what's going to happen. And I think that's interesting, because now it's going to be Bayley that does the turning. It's like, okay, it might even be Bayley. It might be something else. I'm interested. I think it's cool. But yeah, I'm glad this didn't go as sad, because I was about to defend the shit out of some things. But all right, we're about to head out. But before I do, I'll ask one quick question, real quick answer, you guys. The draft is this Friday. We know Roman and Cody are the big ones. We kind of have an idea of separate things. As far as tag teams go, do you see anybody getting split up, or groups, tag teams or groups? Do you see anybody getting split up, and who do you got? I'll go first, so you have a little bit of time to think about it. I think the Street Profits get split up.
Well, yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. Here's the thing, though. That sounds good, but man, there's so little in terms of tag teams. Oh man, you don't want to like lose one of those main ones now that you've just gotten the titles back off the Usos.
If you got a few that you can call up from NXT to replace them, yeah. I think they have enough tag teams in the company. I don't think they have enough for 2 shows, but they have enough tag teams. I think
Pretty Deadly gets called up. I made that kind of obvious, and even in my pick of them in our draft, I think they get called up. I think they've done everything they could in NXT. If I would say maybe them. The only other, I can see them making Xavier Woods a single star. I can see them breaking up him and Kofi, and we don't know when E is coming back. If so, I think that might be like the group that maybe gets split.
Okay, Tidey, I'll let you go, and then I completely didn't even think about this one until he was talking. So if you don't name him, I'm gonna name him too.
Yeah, I was gonna say New Day splits. It's time.
Okay. Yeah.
Completely splits. And if they call Biggie up in this draft, then that's another surprise that he's there. I mean, he can be on the same thing, but then that could be the story. It's like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. You can tell Xavier that to his face. And Kobe's on Raw. Xavier stays on SmackDown with Big E. It's time. I'm sorry. But that was one thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
so and for the people like, why would they only draft one when they could just draft them both and then they could just go, no, that's not how it works. And you guys know that. Stop being picky about that kind of nonsense. That's silly. Or maybe, oh, well, I'm taking Montez and not Montez and Angelo because I think Angelo's holding them down. Give us they can give us reasons as to why they're splitting them up, and it's acceptable. We know the reasons. We just act silly sometimes and complain about it. But Alpha Academy, I definitely see Alpha Academy getting split up. This is how Otis goes with the maximum male models. And Chad Gable goes on to dethrone Gunther. Thank you.
But you want to talk about someone in the ring, and Gunther's got like this attitude problem. I'm joking. But if you got this problem with everybody not being good enough, then you don't honor this ring or whatever, it could be a funny back and forth with Chad Gable if he chooses to be funny. But if Chad Gable could be even dead serious, I mean, dude, he suplexed Braun Strowman.
That was incredible, man.
I would love to see a program with Chad Gable, and dude, that would be excellent.
Yeah, I just
forget Seth and Omos. Let's change what's going on in Backlash right now. The Chad versus Gunther.
I'm with it.
Chad Gable versus Gunther at SummerSlam. Give me that. As
Olympian.
Such good shit. You can't even deny that. I don't know when it was. I think it was this week or last week. It just dawned on me. I was like, that needs to happen. That would be so incredible. Oh my goodness. But Alpha Academy, we're gonna get Otis with the maximum male models.
And I'm all for it. I think Gable needs a singles run. I think that they need to tap into Otis's charm. He's a big dude, and we know he can go and he can be a heel because he's a big dude and he's a bruiser, but he's got charm to him.
He was surprisingly entertaining by himself. Not by himself, but when they took him away from
Andy. Yeah.
And the Brawling Brutes, they'll be separated.
You think so?
I can see that.
I'm curious how.
Well, it just Sheamus who
gets drafted away from who? That's I guess
because Butch can be Pete Dunne again, and just I don't care what they do with him. The dude's gold. If he can pull off Butch, he can do anything. So they'll just separate that at least. It just Sheamus will be separated from them, is what I think.
Also, so you think Sheamus should just get drafted and they're stuck to them by themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. We want tag teams, but I'm willing to see them have their own legs without the veteran Sheamus there. That's what I want to see.
I hate to say this about anybody, but he's probably the person I just cared the least about in wrestling. Ridge Holland, I wouldn't care if it was just the end of them and then he
goes away.
Went to NXT and back to the Performance Center because he needs something. There's something about him, but
he's starting to grow on me a lot more. But I was with you in the beginning. He was just like, all right, a big tough Englishman. He played rugby. That cool, but he does need that little bit. He's starting to show a little personality now that he's kind of turned into a face. Kind of like it a little bit, but he does need to show me more. And I think that Tidey, I think you're 100% right. I think if they could split. I think if they split and if maybe Pete Dunne gets drafted, and it's like, okay, Butch goes to Raw. The three of them are back there. Butch, what happens? Bam. Then like a couple of weeks after, we get some bruiserweight promos, and Pete Dunne's back.
Man, that'd be a cool spot if we got locker room areas where they're sitting and getting drafted, and then they're like, well, Pete Dunne. He's like,
yeah,
that'd be really good. That'd be really good. Yeah, I'm excited for the draft. I really am excited for the draft. And I'm excited. Segue. Look at that. I'm getting really good at these segues. Later this week, the Wrestle Buddy fantasy draft. That's right. We did a Raw, SmackDown, and NXT fantasy draft. We're going to drop it before this week's draft begins. Make sure you check out that. We got Chris from Wrestle Buddy representing Raw. We got Albert representing SmackDown. And then your boy, the Drip King Jimmy Bebe, took care of NXT and did what only he can do. Made it better, baby. But that's coming out later this week. Yeah, keep your eye out for that. That's going to be good. Also, I'll be back tomorrow for the Raw recap as always. So make sure you join me for that one. And next week, we'll be right back here at the Drip King of Wrestling channel doing the Positively Awesome Wrestling. Not sure what we're doing. Probably talking about the draft a bit. Maybe doing some backlash predictions. I'm not sure. But that will be next week. And that's that. So, Tidey, do you have anything you'd like to say to anybody before we skedaddle on out of here?
Well, my own call-ups were going to be, I have to say it from NXT, Mako, JD McDonough, Tiffany Stratton, Zoe Stark. If I don't see most of them going, I will not be a happy Tidey.
Mako's an interesting one.
She's already established through the world. She came to NXT to build people up, help Roxanne, knocked her out, helped to get the title off her. There's nothing else to do here, man. Let's move her to the main roster.
She's been off the show for a minute too, hasn't she?
She needs to fight the legends in WWE. That alone is a SummerSlam draw. I mean, God, what I wouldn't see Mako versus Charlotte or Mako. I mean, there's so much you can do with that.
Yeah.
Especially
Io.
Oh, yes. Io, Asuka, everybody always says that. But, I want the queen. I want the one that's claimed to be the greatest one.
He wants everybody to face Charlotte.
Versus the world-renowned greatest one, Mako. That is huge for me as a fan.
Yeah, for sure. You got JD McDonough and have him face Charlotte.
JD McDonough, he's Irish, man. He can hang out. He hanging out with Becky. He can hang out with Sheamus. He's gonna have a good old time.
No, JD's cool, man. He's cool. I'm just giving you a hard time, Tidey. You know that, man. Old helmet head.
The best in the world. He's CM Punk. You just don't know it.
Now
hold his name to JD McDonough.
This man wants to get muted, though, like old Nick.
Come on, man. All right.
But this is good. I'll pull this up. The Mercedes come out in the match day in the Black Tiger mask. That was dope. That was really cool.
Do we think that Mercedes dropping the title so quick means that she's not really moving to Japan and she's been playing around?
She officially signed, I think, with Stardom.
Is it 100%?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
That's crazy that
she's already talking about her next appearances and everything. So yeah, I think she's there.
Crazy that she dropped the title so quickly, though. Yeah. Surprising.
But Albert, anything you would like to say before we say our goodbyes for the evening?
As always, the Slam Session Network on YouTube. Follow me over there. You got a lot of old videos to pick from and some new stuff that I'm going to try to start editing this week.
There you go. So go over there and check it out and make sure you got the bell on so when he does post it, you won't miss it, baby. So that's that. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for joining us as always. And we will see you all next week. And I will hopefully see you all tomorrow. Goodbyes. Oh, double button.